All right, the phones are ringing. Your front desk sounds super friendly when they do pick the phone up, and your team seems like they're consistently following up, especially as leads begin to roll in. But your calendar still has way too many gaps in it. And so the question is why? And so in this video, I want to break down and show you the four biggest drop-off points where practices just like yours are losing patients quietly. And I want to show you exactly how to fix each one. And by doing that, I want to introduce you to what I call the 4D drop-off matrix, which is basically a breakdown of the four most common places that practices are losing their leads as they come in. And it's probably not what you think. And so this is the exact tool that I used in my cash practice to recoup $120,000 every single year, especially with our cold Facebook traffic. And I want to show you the exact steps of that and how to fix each and every one. And so unfortunately, so many practice owners are asking for more and more and more leads. And if you're a brand new practice, you absolutely need new and more leads to get where you want to go. However, more leads won't always solve a problem. And I've worked with several practices who thought they had a lead problem. And when we introduced this 4D drop off matrix, they noticed that really they didn't have a new lead problem. They just had a follow up and retention problem, especially from the front desk because their front desk was busy. They're, calling leads once or twice, but they're busy handling all the other fires in the office. And ultimately, we want to be able to patch those holes a little bit more in depth. And so now what I want to do is I want to show you our 4D drop-off matrix. This is the exact thing I do with all of our private coaching clients as we're working with them, because I want to design specific protocols to fix each and every problem that pops up along the way. And so what I'll do is let's see if we can share an image of what this drop off looks like, just so you guys can see it. And so this is the drop off matrix. There's four major places that uh, most practices are losing patients. And a lot of it starts here at the top. Some of this is before the phone call, some of this is after, and some of this is even as they are into the clinic. And so we've got four zones here. We've got the delay zone, the disconnect zone, the disappearance, and the drop off. So let's start with the delay here. The delay zone is basically what happens when a lead reaches out. They're referred to you, they text in, they email, they come to your website. Maybe it's from an advertisement that you're doing. And it's a delay between when they actually reach out and before we actually get them on the phone. And so ultimately, if I get more people on the phone, that gives me more at bats to potentially get people to come in for our services. And what typically happens here is your front desk is too busy to quickly and consistently follow up with patients. Meaning, if we're not calling leads within 5 minutes, we have too much delay in what's going on. Obviously, the exception is nights and weekends, which I know a lot of leads come in over nights and weekends. And but still, during work hours, especially, I need phone calls within 5 minutes to actually get this lead to show up into the practice. And so once we do make that very quick contact, that it gives me the opportunity to talk to this person on the phone. But what happens more often than not is that lead ops in, let's call it Sunday evening. And because your front desk is too busy, or maybe they only work part time for you, whatever, and they're not calling them until middle of the day on Monday. And that's way too long at that point. We need quick and consistent follow up. Or what also might happen is we have a lead that we only call once or twice. We don't ever shoot them any text messages. We just let any automations we have roll, and we're not actually getting this person consistent follow up. So this is one big place. The next big one and the most common one is this disconnect zone. This is we've got them on the phone, but ultimately we didn't convince this person to actually come in. More often than not, it's because of I got a cost or an insurance objection or a spousal objection or something like that on the phone call. And if you missed last week's, this is the second in our video series, Fix Your Front Desk. The first video covers all of those insurance objections in depth, especially how to handle the question of do you take my insurance within the first 30 seconds of a call, which happens quite often, right? And so with this, What we want to make sure we're doing is deflecting that insurance question to the very end of the phone call. And I want to connect so deeply on this phone call that this patient says, "Hey, I don't care who pays for it. I know that I see the value in what you guys are doing, and I know you're going to help me specifically." And when we talk about insurance or we talk about costs, that ultimately doesn't get somebody to get excited to want to come in. And so, if you're not inside our school community, I also have an entire framework that we've outlined here for this that will ultimately help you overcome these objections more specifically. So, this is the most common thing, especially in cash practices, where we spend 2 to 3 minutes talking to somebody, and then we're already talking about cost and money. And if we're not spending 15 minutes on the phone call with them, they're probably not going to schedule. And ultimately, what happens is that disconnect on the phone, or if we convince them enough, they will actually schedule the eval. But the next point of this is what I call the disappearance zone, where, hey, I've talked to somebody on the phone, they schedule that initial evaluation, but then they ghost us. They cancel or they no show, or they give us all these reasons, or they try to reschedule 3 or 4 times. And this disappearance zone is because we didn't connect deep enough on that first phone call. And if we don't connect deep enough on this phone call, now they don't see the value, and that ultimately leads to cancels or no shows. This is especially true if I'm running Facebook or Google ads, or I'm running some type of advertising for patients that, are typically going to be a little bit colder than the referrals that maybe you've had in the past. And we want to make sure that we're connecting deep enough on the phone call that they truly see the full value in wanting to work with you. Now, a lot of people will try strategies like putting a credit card on file, or some of these other things, and that really that kind of masks the problem because we're still not connecting deep enough on the phone call. And if we take a credit card on file and we get this drag this person in, ultimately what happens is now in this final portion of this video, or in the final portion of this life cycle, this patient is going to show up for their eval, but they're not actually going to purchase a plan of care with you. And a lot of people will push back here. They want to blame their team who isn't good enough at selling. They potentially want to say, "Oh, we just need to change our sales process in the office." But ultimately, most of this stuff comes down to your front desk not providing enough value and ultimately getting this person excited for the journey. And we need to get this person excited for the journey, not just one single session. And we connect so deeply. We talk about what it's like to actually work with the clinic. Because if we only get them excited for the eval, that's obviously a first portion of this. But I need this person to be extremely excited about solving their problems. And whether you have a functional med clinic or a dental clinic or PT, Chiro, you name it, one session isn't going to solve their problems completely. And so we need to make sure that there's not a giant disconnect in the patient's expectations and the clinic's expectations when this person shows up for that first session. Because if there is a disconnect, and if we did not connect deep enough, now suddenly they're going to be sticker shocked, or they're going to be like, "Well, I thought I was only coming in for 1 or 2 sessions. I think I'm good." And now you have a retention problem on the back end. And now this stuff really, really starts to snowball because I've got drop off at each of these little points because I have less than optimal phone conversations with our patients. And this stuff, you've got to be on your A game when we're talking to patients, especially in a cash based clinic. And so if I've got 10 leads coming in, and only 3 of them actually get on the phone, and actually only 1 or 2 of them show up for an eval, I'm going to have a hard time growing. If on the flip side, I get 10 of them, I get 5 of them on the phone call, and 4 of them actually show up for their eval, I've now gotten 3 additional evals just by changing the way we're following up and communicating with patients. And if we can do that at a high level, it has a tremendous impact on the growth of your clinic. And that's the big things we want to look at. And so that's the 4D drop off matrix. That's exactly how you identify these drop off points. And that's only half the battle. In the next video, I want to show you exactly how do I train, or maybe potentially I need to replace my front desk team so that I can actually get them to execute and fix these problems so that we can get back to growing. And so video 3 and episode 3 will pop up here on the screen. Definitely check that out. Or if you missed last week's, check out the insurance objection video as well. Talk soon.